Started something here at the Royal Palm Coast Realtor Association called Lunch and Learn, Ask the Expert series. And this is where we invite our affiliate members to come in and do a lunch and learn session with our members. We provide lunch, and any questions you may have for them, they will be able to answer. So today we have Bob, is it Cantu?
Yes.
Bob Canto, and he does home inspections. So I'm going to bring him and he'll present any questions you have. You can ask them afterwards or however he wants to continue the presentation. So thank you, Bob, so much for being with us.
Thanks, Angela. Oh, go ahead and clap. Whoever claps. Thank you. Well, everybody, my name is Bob Canto. I'm the owner of a handy home inspector, and I've been doing home inspections for like 14 years. And right before COVID, we decided to scale. Luckily, we decided to scale because, as you know, we're in the hottest market in the country, it seems like, right? So we're now at 14 employees, where 2 years ago it was like me, a guy, and a little office help. So we've scaled to 14 employees here to serve you guys. So when the association decided they wanted to have somebody come on in and talk and help educate you guys, I raised my hand and said, absolutely, we love doing this, you guys. So how many of you guys are veteran agents, people who have got 10 years or more of experience? Raise your hand. Okay. 5 years or more? Or just started? Excellent. Okay, that gives me an idea of where we're at with all this here. So, excellent, wonderful. So we're here to sort of train you on, or just kind of inform you on some of the liabilities associated with the home inspection. So as many of you know, there's all kinds of liabilities in this business, right? So your home inspector should not be one of them for you. However, as far as errors and omissions, who's familiar with errors and omissions? Everybody, right? We all have to have it in the real estate industry and many other industries. But how many people know whether or not a home inspector is required by law to have errors and omissions insurance?
I think you would have to.
Pardon?
I would think you'd have to be. Depends on what you do.
So would I, but guess what? Yeah, guess what? You don't have to. So what happens is we get a lot of agents who say, we have to refer 3 people, right? Sure, they call it good standard business practices. But if you're referring 3 of us guys out there and one of us doesn't have errors and omissions, you might not know that, right? Because it's not required by law, so that opens you up to potential lawsuits, just so you know. It is not a requirement, just so you know. But since you are so brave, Jenna's got a bag for you. This is Jenna here, who's our marketing rep. She's got a dry bag with So Jenna's our marketing rep, so if you have any connections with your brokers and want us to come in and talk to your office, inform your office, definitely give us your card. We'd love to come into your office and help present to your offices as well. But she handed you a bag with maybe one of our koozie cups, some other swag stuff that we have. So, and then we have these for you too. I don't know if you saw these. These are for the skinny beers. Who likes the skinny beers? The Trulies and the White Claws. That's what these are here. So. Anyways, how many of you feel like the home inspector should absolutely 100% warranty the inspection?
Yeah.
I love that. There's a lot of challenges associated with that, just so you know. We'd love to, when we compete with other home inspection companies, we find out that many of them don't offer a warranty like we do. We offer a 90-day warranty with our inspections. We've got some information up here on the screen flashing and also on our website. If you guys have a couple seconds to go to our website, you can see a little bit about our warranty that we offer. And some of you guys are already familiar with it. I know we work with Amanda Font over here, and she's familiar with our 90-day warranty. But many other companies do not offer that, so let me see if I can get to that. And it's not a requirement, just so you know. It's not a requirement of the home inspector to warranty the inspection. In fact, I don't know if you know this, most home inspectors are only liable for the fee of the inspection. So let's say something goes south, and there's a concern or an issue, okay? The inspector's legal liability is only to return the fee of the inspection. So if it's a $350 home inspection and he missed something, The reality is the contract that he has with your client is limited to the cost of the inspection, just so you know, and that's across the board for every inspector that you work with. That's why we have a warranty, a 90-day warranty that covers a lot of these other things you can see up here. And it helps offset some of those uncomfortable conversations because home inspectors are really great at coming in and doing inspections, but what happens is potentially down the road, there may be other developments that occur after the fact. So we don't have a crystal ball. We cannot predict the future. A month into the home, after the client has lived in the home, potentially the air conditioning system could go bad. We can't predict that stuff. It's a snapshot in time, and some people don't understand that that's how it works. So keep that in mind when you're working with your inspector, and perhaps a client who wants to litigate. Ultimately, it's a conversation, just a conversation to start with, and then if it goes on into any further conversation, perhaps lawsuits, that's where the inspector's E&O insurance potentially could kick in. So perhaps water claims or things of this sort, just so you all know as agents. It takes your client to hire an attorney and then go sue the inspector, which of course they're going to include everybody involved, the neighbors, the cousins, the brothers, anyone that they can tag to the lawsuit, because we've seen this before. We've never been sued out of over 10,000 inspections, just so you folks know. It turns into a big process, but once again, if your home inspector does not have E&O insurance, potentially your errors and omissions insurance may be liable for anything that was missed that could be large, which potentially an attorney could sue you in court for. Keep that in mind. Does anybody have any questions on that, how that works at all?
So this was prior to me getting into real estate when I bought my home here. After we purchased it, we were doing some remodeling and was told by several that there's no way that the electrical should have passed inspection. Is that where, I mean, we're not going to, but is that where we would possibly go after the inspector and try and get some type of reimbursement? Because it costs a lot of money to fix, so it should be a code.
So that's a really great question. The inspector is not required to recite code. Yep. Now, what a lot of folks may or may not understand is that as an inspector, we're generalists. We're coming in to just make sure everything is safe. Now, if we get a 1976 home, it's definitely not going to be the code. So, but there's a shared responsibility approach, and that is your agent and everybody involved should remind you that you're buying a 40-year-old home and that it's going to act like a 40-year-old home. The seller is not required to bring it up to current code and update. They could, but they're going to charge another $100,000 to have it per current code, etc. So there's a little shared responsibility on that, and we are not required to recite code and or bring, just point out those things. Safety items, yes, because codes do change. But we're generalists looking for safety items primarily. But that is a great question. So what we do when we contract with any one of our clients, we have a video that goes out to not only the buyer's agent, the buyer, as well as the seller's agent. And it's a short video of 3 minutes. Have you seen this video? I don't know. So it's a short 3-minute video that says, hey folks, we can't see behind walls, like a cartoon video that says, hey, it's x-ray vision trying to look behind the wall. We can't look behind walls. We're not there to recite code. It is time of inspection. And it sets, hopefully, the level of expectation for your client, because a lot of clients might not understand, and even newer agents might not understand the scope of what a home inspection truly is. So that's why we have this video created. So.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you don't cite code, but houses have to be built to code. So who determines whether the home, whether it's brand new or 40 years old, needs code?
The state of Florida, and then the codes are then given to our local municipalities.
No, I mean, the state of Florida didn't look at the house to make sure it was built to code. So how do you know client's building a home, it's a year old, it's 2 years old,
Yep.
how do you know whether it's to code or not then?
So our state code, they write it, and our local municipalities implement it. So our local building departments, whether it's Cape Coral or Myers. And so, for example, Cape Coral, each phase of construction, I'm a general contractor, by the way, too, as well. So Cape Coral, when a slab is poured, they come on out. Before it's poured, they look and make sure everything's per code. Same with any blocks, framing, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a whole checklist, a whole long checklist of requirements to pass each inspection to basically say it's per current code. Make sense?
Yeah, it's just, I've seen brand new houses that aren't, so I didn't know how you figured out, you know, if they're written off, if they're signed off by the
Yep.
municipality, they're the ones that are ultimately responsible.
Yes and no. Yeah, tying them down, I think there's something in there that you can't sue them. But they do have inspectors there who actually go through everything. We've dealt with them for years. And they're there to make sure everything is in accordance, you know, whether it's the steel or how the plywood is nailed off. And that's what they do. They follow each phase. So most newer homes beyond 2004, even older ones, they're built and constructed per the code that has been adopted at that time in HSO. Yep, no problem. Great. So as far as being liable for your inspection or your inspector, that's a possibility, as I mentioned. If your inspector does not have E&O insurance, it's okay to ask him for it. We all have copies of it, and we'd be more than happy to share it with you. In fact, we have so much insurance, it's a lot. So we've got commercial policies, I've got general liabilities, umbrellas, 2 million aggregates, all these insurances in place to protect you. But if you guys utilize a single man, one man operation, there's potentially you may be liable for that inspector because perhaps he's cutting corners or just there's a lot of different things. So just make sure they have all of their insurances in place as well as if he falls off of a roof. And that goes with let's say that we've got, that you referred an inspector who perhaps does not have workers' compensation for his inspectors. How many of you dealt with multi-inspector firms or just one guy firms? Multi-inspector firms? Primarily? Okay. How many of you primarily deal with just the chuck in a truck, the one guy?
I did the first, and I mean, it was okay, but it's like, I like it when you guys come, because you have 2 or 3 people, and it just goes quickly, and you don't have to be there forever. That's one of the things that's really good.
Oh, awesome, thanks a lot, I appreciate you
It
saying
takes a
that.
long time.
Yeah, we want to see you guys out doing your thing and getting more listings and you're making more money, so we would try and expedite all that. So the reason I ask as far as, you know, who you're using, and there's plenty of business for everybody, just so you know, you just want to make sure everybody's doing it the right way. Workers' comp is a big thing. It's really hard for a company to get workers' comp with a guy or two, so the challenge is if one of your guys falls off of a roof on one of their properties, it opens up a big bunch of problems. And us being in a business of liabilities, it's very important to make sure, once again, if you're lining up 3 inspectors, that your inspector's behaving professionally. He's got workers' comp, he's got a commercial policy on his vehicles, et cetera, et cetera. So we run into that on new home construction. A lot of times they want all of our information, which is something we do really well when we get to new home construction. How many of you guys are doing new home sales right now? Like in that? Obviously, it's a really big deal right now. I will tell you right now, suggest a home inspection. There's so much stuff that we find on new home construction, and typically it's not anything structural, but it's a lot of tedious little things like the things haven't been plumbed or drained yet, connected, and that really helps your clients for the $400. Kind of start off right with the builder, have the builder make everything right. So keep that in mind. We do a lot of new home constructions, inspections. In fact, we do another type of inspection, which is called a walkthrough inspection. So how many of you agents been hurried through the process? Like, we don't want any inspections, and you don't have an inspection period of time, and we're not going to accept a home inspection. We're selling these houses, we want it going and done. How many of you have been kind of forced to say, hey, we can't get an inspection on this, right? So, and then you got to write a piece of paper that says, hey, we're foregoing an inspection, which we don't suggest for anybody. You guys are opening yourselves up to a lot of liability. I'm sure we're going to hear about it in another year or so because we're in a rush state. So we have what's called a walkthrough inspection, and there's a contract on there. Once again, it makes you guys safe from any potential future litigation. So it's a contract that says, hey, we're basically here to check out the major components of the home. So what happens is you have this potential buyer listing situation where the listing agent says, I'm not accepting a home inspection and I'm not going to credit anything. If you want the house, take it or leave it. So what we do is we go on in and we do a walkthrough inspection. You have us for about 45 minutes tops. We don't write a report and we verbalize everything. Now the reason we do this is, once again, it just takes any liability away from you. But the bigger thing is, we've seen 2 or 3 times already, some of my good friends who sell real estate too, 2 or 3 times what's happened is they go to get an insurance on it, because they pay cash for these, they write a check for it, pay cash. A month later, these buyers are trying to get insurance on the home, and they find out, the last one that we found out about, the roof was bad, and it had polybutylene plumbing and a bad electrical panel. So at the end of the day, the home had $20,000 worth of repairs that needed to be done now in order just to have insurance. And so the buyer was kind of like, gosh, I wish I could have got an inspection, or at least known that these major deficiencies were present. So he was really bummed about it. And all in our home inspection industry throughout the country, we're tied with the largest home inspection companies in the country, and we're all doing this right now because we think we can be a service to you all and sort of mitigate some of the potential liability that might be there. Because we want these clients of ours to be long-term clients, not just one and done, because that person is, of course, going to feel like his agent should have been more responsible and not have foregone the inspection. So we don't suggest it. Call us on the fly, we'll come do the walkthrough. If you know you're going to look at it at, who knows, tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock, call my office, let them know you want a walkthrough inspection. We'll contract with the buyer. And like I said, you got us for 45 minutes. We're going to let you know that the 4 major components that basically you can insure the home. Everything, the bones are good, and or at least you have a dollar idea of how much it's going to take to make sure you can insure the home. Okay?
And that's just on the new construction?
No, in general, in all home inspections, yes.
Would a development builder, say GL Homes, still like have my client go ahead and do an inspection? We're getting close to, they just got a CO on it, but they haven't closed on it yet.
So our builders are really stingy with letting us come in and inspect, just so you guys know. And we know how to jump through all the hoops. We have a bunch of paperwork, so it definitely costs a couple dollars more, maybe $50 more with the new homes, because I have to have my insurance company send over additionally insured information. We have to send on over that we have $2 million. All the insurance stuff they want up front, and even then they say you can't walk on roofs, you need to go buy and get a hard hat, all this stuff. What they're trying to do is they're trying to deter you from coming on in and slowing the process. But don't worry, we do all that stuff. We send all the paperwork so you can look out for your client, and we find a lot of stuff, so, yep. How many of you know anything about radon gas? Okay, excellent. Radon gas is the 2nd leading cause of lung cancer. Anybody know that? So it's pretty significant. Now, with all of our New Yorkers and people in that northeast region of the country, Pennsylvania, all these northeast areas, they're used to it. They have to deal with it, and they have to mitigate it. So radon gas is an odorless gas that comes out of the ground, and it's naturally occurring. And we have it here in Southwest Florida. So I'll just tell you this, we don't do a hard sell on it, on any of our services. We just make them present for our clients if they want to order any of our services. Please do. But radon gas is one of those things where you never want to tell your client, oh, we don't have that here. Because once again, you're going to open yourself up to liability, okay? Especially if you send off that email that says, we don't have radon gas here. We have radon gas here, you guys, okay? It's more prevalent in condos because they're really tightly sealed, and they don't, you know, we lock down our houses this time of year, right? Nobody's opening up the windows and airing out the house, right? It's like 150 degrees so outside, so we're not going to do that. So we have them locked up, and so that gas just kind of sort of builds in the unit, and then we report high levels. Now, it's a very easy thing to remediate. Most times they'll put in a fresh air intake to bring some fresh air from outside to inside. It's a pretty simple process, and there's like a meter that registers 4.0 picoliters, and once it hits at 4.0, then this fan will kick on and it'll bring in fresh air from outside, and then that way the home is safe. So anything above 4.0 picoliters is considered unsafe by the EPA, just so you know. So some guidelines on radon gas. Does anyone have any questions on radon gas?
How much does it typically cost to remediate it and put that unit in?
Great question. Standard, give or take, on average, per air conditioning unit, it's about $1,500 to $2,000. Yep.
Oh, that is so much more than we pay in Indiana.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So much more, so much less.
So much more.
Really?
Yes.
What was it costing in Indiana?
Oh, 500.
Oh, wow, nice. So, you know, generally there's a few companies that do it here, Radon 911, Gulf Coast Radon, and on average you're about $1,500 to $2,000. And when you look at the percentage of a home, et cetera, it's really not a massive cost, just so you know. Any other questions on radon?
How often do you see it?
We see it probably out of every 10 to 12 radon inspections we do, 1 out of 10 to 12. And primarily it is on condos, just so you know, because they're so closed up tight. So Gulf Harbor area, a lot of those condos in that area and region. The Kelly, what's the road that's south of the hospital, that Bass Road, the Livingston Road? I think. Yeah, Livingston, yeah. Yeah, down in there. We see it down in there. Sometimes near the river corridors on each side of the Cape and Fort Myers. We see it primarily a little more in Naples and as well as the Estero, Bonita area as well. So for us, I think it's $225 for us to test for. It takes 2 days we have to set the machine. The home has to be closed for 24 hours prior to us setting up the equipment, and then it has to stay closed for 48 hours. Now that doesn't mean you can't go anywhere for 48 hours. Many times these homes are occupied. Regular indoor in and out of the home is fine. It's just when the person opens the front door, the back door, that window and that window to air out the house, because the sellers don't want to pay for the mitigation. Our equipment will actually, it measures, and as it sits there and measures, it'll drop off. And when it drops off, the equipment is so smart that it immediately renders a failed test or that it's been tampered with. So keep that in mind. And then we pick up the equipment 2 days after, ultimately, and all of the information is sent up to the lab. So we usually have it, so let's say we pick up the equipment at 12, we usually have the information within an hour or two from the inspection. So keep that in mind when you're doing your radon inspection. So, and let your buyer sellers know that closed home conditions for 24 hours prior to us inspecting.
That was radon, but I didn't see in your brochure the walkthrough. What would be the cost of that particular inspection?
Good question. I'll have to ask my office. I think it's $250. Pretty sure it's $250. Yeah. Is it $250?
Yeah, I believe that's the cost.
Excellent.
Thank you.
And feel free to call my office on any pricing at all, you guys. If you get sent on over to a call center, be patient, leave a message, just looking at pricing, and they'll get back with you. We've got a couple people who answer the phones, but we're busy a lot of times. But also, you can book online, just so you know. It's a little easier to do that. We're setting up some incentive to do that. If you book online, we're going to reduce the fee, so we're getting our website updated, so that way it makes it a little easier in the office. It's really easy to go to our website and just book everything online. I think you do that a lot of times, don't you?
I just like seeing.
Yeah, okay. We just send it on over, so. Any other questions on radon? Radon gas? Excellent. How are you guys watching the Olympics?
Did you know that the University of Florida is the #1 out of all schools as far as medals? And that if we were a country, you can tell me, if we were a country, we'd be 7th overall out of all countries.
Awesome. So I just, not that I went to a University of Florida, but I love the school. We just did a charity event to benefit their scholarship program. I don't know if you heard about that. I did the run. Yeah. I took my boat with some of our agents, and we did the poker run. So that was fun. It was nice. We got to meet a bunch of great local business people. Stokes Marine, we know Trey Ward with Valvord Cadillac, and some of the other really neat guys in town. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. It's great to be a part of that. So I was reading something really interesting. Whoever gets this right or closest, take a guess. You remember Usain Bolt, the guy, the sprinter, right? All right. Take a guess at how far his sprint was, feet-wise. So when he was running from this foot to the next foot, how far was his sprint? And I can't give you the math, I will in a second, but can anyone guess how far his sprint was?
3.5 feet. 3.5.
6.
42.
All right, you got it right here. It's 9.5 feet. So I'll give you an idea. We'll use this table for example.
Thank you.
4.5.
He's got some long legs.
So from this table all the way to this table, this guy is one stride running. So I read in the 100-meter dash, he was finishing it in 40 strides, where everybody else was 42, 43, even 48 strides. So I thought that was phenomenal. So yeah, good job. I changed it up a little bit, right? So I'm going to explain to you guys a little bit more about our services, just so you're aware of it, and then we're going to probably open this up to some Q&A a little bit. I don't want to bore you to death. I mean, as far as like real estate services and everything, you've got mortgage brokers, they're your money gods, right? And then you've got home inspectors, and somewhere here you got like property appraisers and title people, they're just not so glamorous or fun. So we're not much far above them, not very exciting, right? We're called the deal breakers. But I like to think we're relationship makers, long term, right? So a little bit about our warranty program. Once again, this is all on my website. We just want to mention to you, included in our home inspection is over $22,000 worth of warranties. Some people are like, well, that stuff never works. It works. So we have what's called a 5-year platinum roof protection program, which I think you see up here. It covers, let's say we do inspection on a house, and now granted, if we say the roof is bad, it's got a year of life expectancy, they're not going to cover it 5 years beyond that, guys. So a little common sense should be used in that. But if we've got a roof that's definitely got 5 years of life expectancy, and let's say in year 4, it develops a leak, the warranty will cover up to $3,000 of any repair, with a small deductible of $500. So we just had one during the really big rainstorm. I can't remember, it was a really bad rainstorm. We had it a couple months ago. And rain was coming in sideways from somewhere, whatever. And it was a $1,700, they had to reflash something, and it was a $1,700 repair. They covered it with a $500 deductible, so it was like $1,200 in free money, basically. So, and it's good for 5 years. We have a sewer guard protection program. This covers the drain from the house to the street. So if there is something that, a tree root or something that damages one of those drains or pipes, I think it's covered for up to $2,000, I think, Jenna, right? Is it 4,000?
Yeah.
Okay, 4,000, yep. And so we rarely see that ultimately, but there's always a potential for that. We have a mold save program which covers up to 2,000. Yeah?
Yeah, 2009.
Okay. So this is where if we do an inspection and there's visible mold, and or maybe we didn't point it out or it was discovered after you moved in, the warranty program will cover that, and there's no deductible on that one. Our 90-day warranty covers up to $500 of incidentals. Now, that might not seem like a lot, but the things that we find out that are after the fact. So what'll happen is perhaps the food disposer will go bad, or you'll have a shower valve which no longer, the hot side doesn't work on it, or the air conditioner will stop working. And a lot of these items are just maintenance type ticky-tack items. It's not a lot of money, but as far as your new buyer who feels like the home inspection should be indefinitely covered, a maintenance program and all that, it's just not, but it's a nice way of saying, hey, that small item should be protected and it should be covered. So, for example, air conditioning is, for us, that's something that happens a lot. We do the inspection, the people move in a month later, and the first week they're in there, here's what happens is they leave the front door open, they're moving, all this hot air is coming on in, and the next thing you know, the capacitor on the air conditioning system goes back. And then they call us and they say, well, you should have caught this. We're like, we're 5 months after we inspected it. How are we supposed to catch this? A capacitor is usually about $250, really easy for an AC guy to come and put in a new capacitor. What it doesn't cover is regular maintenance. You got to clean the drains on your air conditioning systems. So we send information on that too, like maintenance. When we inspect, we just say, hey, by the way, have your AC serviced, clean the drains. How many of you have had a clogged drain in your home from the air conditioning system? All of us, I hope, right? What we do is we put a hose down it, we flush it out, and after that, we then put some bleach down it, and you're done. You should do it a couple times a year, right? Or if you're gonna have a big party, and you know you're gonna be running your air conditioning system really hard, just have, you can do this yourself, and or your husband, just put the hose on the drain and flush it out, and that way you don't have any problems. So, the warranty also includes a recall check. A recall check for your clients is when our inspectors come on in, we document all of the appliances and the air conditioning, the stove, the microwave, all the appliances in the home, and refrigerator, and they document all of these serial numbers, and they get sent a recall check. Now, what recall check does is it sends a report to your buyer, and it says, hey, either everything's checked out clear, and or, hey, this stove is a known fire hazard. We're going to connect you with the manufacturer. The manufacturer is going to get in touch with you, so that way, if it's a fire hazard, it's kind of like your Toyota airbags. You have to drive it through the, take it to Toyota, they put in a new airbag or service it at no charge to you. It's the same with these manufacturers of these stoves and refrigerators. If there's a known deficiency that's going to cause damage to the home, they want to repair them and fix them before it causes damage. So that's included as well. That's called our recall check. So, how many of your other inspectors are working with a warranty program like ours? Anybody else's home inspector doing this? You know why? It's really expensive. But we're adding that value to you as agents, and then also our buyers. We have the option to take $50 off of our inspection. But most people are like, for $22,000 in warranties, we'll take it. I mean, even just the air conditioning stop working it's done, it's paid for, so just keep that in mind. So I'm going to open things up to conversation just a little bit, questions. So I'm here to kind of help you out with potentially any of the other inspections that you're not aware of, perhaps such as wind mitigations, 4-point inspections. We also offer mold and indoor air quality inspections, and of course radon inspections, as we discussed, and well water treatment, well water inspections for VA loans. If you do a VA loan, automatically you have to do a well water inspection if your client has a well, and also a termite inspection. Oh, that brings me to, we own a termite inspection company. Thanks, Jenna. Yep.
I was going to flag it.
So we have our own in-house termite inspection company. It's called Harrison's Pest Control, and we offer $50 on a service start, and then we have a discounted rate when the client has us do the termite inspection on site, because we can. We already have all the information. So keep that in mind when you're scheduling with us as well. We own the termite inspection company. So, but with regards to any of those inspections, is there any question that you have on those inspections, want to know more about those inspections? And also, are there any pain points? I want to hear some pain points today from you guys.
I just have a question about the condo, because you had did a condo for me in December, and then when they went to go get the insurance in January, some of the, what they were looking for from the condo inspection was different, because they had changed some protocols. So what is the condo inspection still the one they should do for condos?
That's a really good question. So, how many of you discovered insurance these days is just incredibly tough to deal with, right? It's really, really tough now because of the former storm we had when we replaced all these roads. So these underwriters are the ones who have become really, really strict and really all over the place. So what happens is, yes, we do a condo inspection, right? That information as a condo inspection is for your client to make an informed decision on the purchase. It's to help them make a financial decision, make sure it's safe. Now, a wind mitigation or a 4-point inspection may or may not be required depending on which underwriter that they're dealing with. So the really picky ones that basically don't want to insure anybody, they're going to make this person get a wind mitigation and a 4-point inspection potentially. So we never know coming in. We always ask, typically, are you going to need a wind mitigation and 4-point inspection? Check with your insurance company. So, and what's challenging for us is if we've got a 3-story condo, we can't inspect the roof because we don't have a 3-story ladder. So it makes it challenging. We do our best from outside, and even that may or may not be acceptable, ultimately, just to give you an idea. So we never know from what underwriter to what underwriter. A lot of times they just call an underwriter who doesn't need one. Does that make sense?
What about pools and spas?
Yes, great question. So we inspect pools and spas. It's a visual inspection. We do operate the equipment, turn it on, solar, we do operate it. Once again, this is a limited visual inspection. We would say on homes that are 25 years or older, it's good to have it have someone dive into it, especially if you're dealing with a more expensive home. It is $450 starting price to have it actually gone through. So I've had this done at my house, and we had some leaking check valves, and so it was $250 to repair them. But imagine you as an agent, once again, we're doing a visual inspection. Everything is highlighted in our contract. This is a visual inspection. It's $25. We're just doing the basics with it. Potentially, there might be a check valve that's damaged, which was at my house. I had a check valve that was damaged, and it was $250 to repair it. But the guys who dove it was $450 for me to pay them to dive it, plug up the entire system, put dye in everywhere. So we don't go to that extent. We can certainly refer people like that, and if you have a large, luxurious home, sometimes it makes sense to suggest to your client spend the $450 on it. Make sense? We also do a visual inspection of the dock, seawall, and lift also, just for $25 as well. Giving them a general idea, just making sure the equipment works, or an idea on where they're at with potentially having to replace the dock or seawall.
Okay, and that was the extra 25, you said?
Yes.
Do you go on the roof for your roof inspection?
Yes.
Okay.
And this is a really great question because there are some roofs that we cannot access. So 2-story roofs, unless we have access from a first level, so we walk up some steps, we've got a great platform, we can lean our ladder and access it from that point, we can access those. However, our insurance, our workers' comp insurance, limits us to a 1-story roof, and it's clear as day. So if one of my guys went and bought his own ladder and brought it on my job to access a 2-story home and fell off, there'd be a huge lawsuit for everybody. So we don't access them. And most home inspectors, a lot of them do not have the insurance to actually access them. So that's why you'll see drones used to do these inspections. Now, most of the time we can access them. And if we notice we have a larger, luxurious home, we'll have a licensed roofer come on in, and they'll go through and inspect it a little deeper for us. But most home inspectors are only insured to access 1-story homes, unless they're doing a workers' comp exempt. If they're doing a workers' comp exempt and they fall down as the owner of a company, then they're liable for all their medical bills. They cannot sue anybody, so they can't sue the homeowner. So.
Okay, because I had an inspector, the buyer, I've never worked with him before, the buyer chose him.
Yep.
And he was doing the inspection, I'm always there, and so I walk outside, and he's standing there with a little GoPro on a stick, and I was like, what are you doing? He said, I'm inspecting the roof. I said, you don't go up there? He goes, oh no, inspectors, we don't do that anymore. You know, that's changed, they don't do that anymore.
Yeah, single-story roofs, all day long we do. And the best, and perhaps his insurance might not have allowed it, just so you know. That's probably why, perhaps. And then the 2 stories, there's telescoping equipment to inspect the 2-story roofs as well, or drones. That's
Yeah, I
another.
know, it was a little 1-story and high. I mean, I probably would have jumped up there.
We walk roofs. It is the best way, of course, to inspect your roof, is definitely to walk it. And we're just up front when we know that we can't, and we inform the client and the buyer and everybody, and associated with it to let them know that perhaps we couldn't access it. So.
Yeah, that's just why I asked, because he said that the rules had changed and the inspectors, not just him, that's not something that did. So that's why I asked,
Okay.
coming from another inspector.
Yep.
Thank you.
No problem.
Why did you actually call that full inspection that you were talking about? Was there a specific name for it? You do the dye and all that stuff?
Yeah, it's just a leak detection.
Please.
Yep. And ultimately, so there's a couple different levels of full inspection. So the one we do is just strictly visual. We want to just see everything running, equipment running. The next one would be maybe about $125, where the fellow might open up the filter, and they might go through and operate every single valve in the pool equipment, and write up perhaps a repair list on what needs to be done. And then the leak detection is, let me draw that back for a second. So for the $125 one, there's the potential that there may be a leak. They might do a static leak detection where they'll do a bucket test. They'll take a bucket of water, they'll put it in the pool, they'll take a Sharpie and mark it, and if by the next day it's dropped an inch, they know that there's a leak. A lot of times those types of leaks, they're found around the strainer basket. It's just, they're notorious for leaking around the strainer basket, and that's a pretty easy fix. Now, the guys who dive them, that's really in depth. What they'll do is they'll plug every orifice in the pool, and they'll pressure test the system to make sure that you don't have any significant leak. Once again, on a nice home, $450 on $1 million home is nothing to these folks, so we certainly suggest having a real pool inspection for those types of homes. So, any other questions?
What's the experience for an inspector? What do they have to do to become an inspector?
Great question. All they have to do is pass a test and pass a Florida State certification. They don't have to have any training. They don't have to have any background in they don't have to be, how can I say, they don't have to go through like a 2-year class like when you become a doctor or an apprentice for any amount of time. So once they do that, then they start practicing on people's homes, and that's why they're maybe perhaps charging $299 for a home inspection. Now, in our company, we train people from point A to point Z, and then they work with a lead inspector. And our lead inspectors are thoroughly trained. And on top of that, we have now what's called a customer care manager. Fish is our customer care manager now. And he is the supervisor of our entire team of home inspectors. And what he does is he reviews the report for quality before it's published. So we've got a couple different phases of quality assurance for our team as we begin to develop and grow. So that's how we operate our company and business. And then if things get elevated to a different level where we need a little more know-how, that's where I'll come in and we'll manage anything above and beyond that. So, but that's a great question. You'd be amazed at how many guys have just started. They've never worked for anybody, and they're out there just practicing. And I wish the state would change it and just make them have them work with somebody for at least a year, and that would be really help out the industry. But I'm sure you've seen a lot of people hurt by potentially the home inspector and agents, and they're just trying to help out their neighbor who just got recently licensed. It's really good to know that they've worked with somebody, under somebody, and been trained up a little more. So that's a great question. Thank you. That was such a great question. I think you should have the last bag.
Well, and I just want to interject too, that all of our home inspectors usually come in sets of 2, so that you have a lead inspector and then another assistant. And most of the time, one of our inspectors will hit the roof, and the other one will go inside, do recall checks, and start that. Well, the one on the roof will do the perimeter kind of outside. So you get 2 eyes on a house at one time. And that also cuts the time down, as she talked about earlier.
Yeah, that's great to know. We've designed our company that way for not only training purposes, but quality control and efficiency as well for everybody out there. If you all can stay busy, finding more listings or spending your time boating or doing whatever, Amanda, we're going to go get the inspection done for you as quick as possible so that way you can carry on with your day. So that's how we operate to hopefully ensure a little more quality and efficiency for your clients. So.
I recently experienced a home inspection. I was the listing agent, and the buyers did a home inspection, and the home inspector used a piece of equipment to measure the moisture in the walls. Mm-hmm. And the report was filled with these pictures of the measurement of the moisture that supposedly was in the walls, even though there was no indication of any water leaks or any moisture in the house. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about that? I had never seen that before. I'm used to home inspections up north. I know there's humidity here, but it was just seemed like it was an alarmist type thing to me. Just thought it was different.
Yeah, that's a really great question. So the number one area where we run into trouble as home inspectors is moisture intrusion, because once again, it's a moving target. So during our dry season, we have no problems with moisture, 90% of the time. As soon as it starts raining, moisture pops up in places, right? So what happens is we can inspect it and we could be dry for maybe a couple weeks. And a couple weeks later, there's good rain or the irrigation system is blowing water into a window, or it's shifted somehow and it's clogged with whatever, calcium or whatever. It's now blowing in towards the window, and that window is not properly caulked, and all of a sudden we start getting water into that area. So what happens is us as inspectors, it's part of our protocol is when we walk the entire house, we walk it with a really, really bright light to look up any moisture stains. For two different reasons. We want to point out that the moisture stains are not active. And we'll put that in the report. Hey, we suggest you're monitoring this, and we want to point out that that it is not active, but monitor it. But then, if we fast forward into potentially where it is active, we highlight that in red in a report. That's something that should be looked at, and we utilize a few different tools to check for moisture. The one that you're probably talking about is a moisture meter. It's got a couple pins, and we lightly press into some sheetrock or some baseboard, and that'll let us know if we have elevated levels of moisture. Those are things that need to be looked at because we know what potentially is behind that. Either a leak from plumbing in a wall, and the thing is to address it right away so that way it doesn't cause further damage to the home. That's what we're trying to do is it's, even though it seems like a maintenance item, before the home buyer buys the home, that's a great time for them to have it corrected. And a lot of times if it's been persistent, we will find mold behind those walls. So it is really important to definitely address any moisture. So when we report on our inspections, we use a color-coded system. Some of you have seen our color-coded system. We utilize Spectora software. It's the best software on the planet. It's very clear and concise and very easy to read. And we have these square boxes. They're like Monopoly cards. And I just played Monopoly. I was on vacation a couple weeks ago. It was so much fun. When's the last time you guys played Monopoly with your kids? Like, just whip it out and play some Monopoly. No?
No, because it lasts like hours.
It's a long game, I know.
Yes, it goes on
It's
forever.
like, can someone bankrupt so we can get done with the game?
Yes. So there's some tricks to make it go faster, But yeah, no, it's we were playing Monopoly the other day, and it just reminded me of our reporting system. Really easy to understand. So we have these square boxes, and on the top, like a Monopoly card, it has colors. We have a blue code, an orange code, and a red code. So us as inspectors, what we're doing is drawing out anything in red because we want you guys to be really aware of it so that we can have that conversation with your buyer and say, yeah, this is something we need to look into a little more. Orange are typical maintenance type items, and or, hey, we need to pay attention to this, such as a water stain, and the home seller might say, yeah, I have a water stain on my ceiling because my drain line to my air conditioning system plugged up, and so that's why we have that stain there. And it's not active, but we're showing you that it's not active right now. So that's how we address it. And then blue is just regular general maintenance stuff that's like, welcome to owning a home. You've got a hole in the driveway or something, so.
I do have one.
Yeah.
I have a house that I'm selling has the cedar wood around the outside, and the buyer's inspector came in and inspected it. And after afterwards, my seller had noticed, I guess there was, I mean, it's a 40-year-old house, so it had some like little holes, but she noticed that some of the holes were even bigger after the inspector went through. Are they allowed to pick up the wood and see what's underneath it? Make holes bigger? Because I guess you could even see some of the paper behind it because they had picked it so large. Just curious.
Yeah, so we get blamed for everything, just so you know.
Well, no, I guess she walked around. She knew there was in there, but she never remembered seeing them that big until after.
Here's why, it was probably checking for moisture, ultimately. And since there was already what we would call a deficiency, they're
They
damaged,
just used
they're poking and prodding, and yeah,
It kind of falls away.
yeah. There's that, and then also if there was a termite inspection as well, they have screwdrivers and if there is actual termites potentially there and they've caused damage, they'll poke at it. And ultimately, it's uncomfortable for people, but it's something that needs to be addressed ultimately, whether it's the buyer or the seller.
Well, we were never told anything about it. She just noticed the holes were larger. That was it.
Yeah. So perhaps that's where our customer care manager, Fish, would have said, hey, this is what we did, and help talk her off the ledge. So for all of our inspections that we do now, we have Fish as our customer care manager, who will follow up with the client and sort of walk them through whatever, manage any complaint, whether it's from the listing agent who said we left the front light on, even though we send a video that says, hey, just walk the house after we're done. We do our best to leave it how we find it, but we get those phone calls too. But we have a customer care manager to help walk back some of those questions to make your job a little easier. So, a real quick question: how many of you guys do listings? Everybody, right?
Yeah.
We send out a short video to all of our listing agents that says, make the home inspection ready, unlock any closets, make sure the water's on, make sure the electric's on. Make sure if there's something that is unappealing that is addressed prior to us coming in, because we're going to put it in the report, even if it's something small or whatever, if you have a handyman that can tighten up a little things to make things look a little better. We go through these inspections, and yes, it's our job to point out a lot of small items, but think of it this way. If you're a person buying a home, wouldn't you like to know about these little details? And from there, you can decide what is important to you and what isn't, okay? So we suggest if you're doing the listing, we offer what's called a pre-listing inspection. So we point all those out, and on top of that, we offer a 4-month warranty, a 180 days at 4 months. Let's do the math. 120-day warranty, yes. 120-day warranty on a pre-listing home inspection. So if your client pays for this, they have a warranty that they can pass on, and you can pass it on to the new buyer and say, hey, we had a home inspector go through this. You've got a 5-year roof warranty protection program included in your home inspection, and all the things that I discussed with our warranties. So keep that in mind if you're going to do a pre-listing.
What's that run about?
It varies, but on average about $400.
It depends on the size of the house?
Yes, sir.
So if it's a 2,600 square foot house, what would you say, $600?
No, probably like $450.
Okay.
Yeah, and it depends on age too as well. So, yeah.
2008.
So recently learning that if an inspector damages the house, it's up to the buyer to cover those damages. Are there certain things that prevent serious damages being done by inspectors, and are there certain types of inspections that gear more towards some damage that could possibly happen, so we can prepare the buyers for that?
Those are few and far between, I'll be honest with you. I know all the damage that we've created in our company because I have to pay for it. What happens is, for example, we might have a window that the sashes the springs are gone on them. So my inspector opens up the window, and as he's getting ready to pull the window down, it by itself just goes boom. So we cracked the window. It's $150 for me to fix. And all I did was I let the sellers know we have it covered. When your new buyer comes on in, everything goes together. We'll just cover it. So for me, it's the percentage of that kind of stuff isn't a big deal for us. Now, if we're uncovering a known deficiency, that's a different story. Yeah. So for example, we had a water stain that was in a condo, and my inspector went to just lightly press on this water stain, and his whole hand went through the ceiling because it was just paper. And at that point, it's like, this has got to be fixed. We didn't cause damage, you got damage already. So, little common sense. If it's something that like I said, technically the window was a no deficiency. The sashes were bad on them. Technically, I could have said, yeah, that's you're selling the home, and obviously these springs were bad on it, but it just didn't look good, so we paid for the springs in the window, or the cracked window. So there's a little bit of a little common sense on it. And then, of course, if you're an agent that does $20 million worth of business with us, I'm definitely going to pay for it.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, loaded question, I'm telling you ahead of time. Just had one recently, sold a house, 3-year-old house. The contractor moved the light. When the inspector went through it, said, repaint where it was, because you can see the difference in the variance in the paint, because they patched the old hole where the light was supposed to go and put a new fixture next to it.
Yep.
And then he said, check the roof, because there might be a leak. So, and it's all, I want to be clear with you, Bob, it's all artificial intelligence that he took a picture, right, put it in the system and it said, check for a roof leak. So if he did it again, it would say the same. If you went to another house, did the same exact thing and say, check for a roof leak. Well, you know, at least I hope you know, that you get a roofer involved with anything that goes on with Florida, they want to put a new roof on your house. They don't care, you know, if it's a shingle blown off with a windstorm, if there's a little bit of a residue from it, you know, you need a whole new roof. And what you have is just, it caused panic, because the first thing the buyer thinks, that's not in our state, that doesn't really understand how we do business down here from Ohio, then holy Christ, I'm paying $450,000 for the house, and now I put a new roof on it, and the roof is only 2.5 years old. So my thing was, as soon as I saw, it's the first time I've seen something like that in a report, I got ahead of it. I said to the client, you know, I would, you know, I'm not a contractor, I'm not a GC in Florida, but I had a license up in New York. I guarantee it's not a roof issue. That's a fixture issue. They moved the fixture. Somebody decided it was off center, right? Moved it to the center where it's supposed to be, and then sheetrocked over and painted it with a different color paint.
Right.
You know, different color white paint, not, you know, they didn't put blue over a white ceiling, but you can definitely see it. Have you seen that? Have you seen where, you know, it creates like hysteria, because now we're talking about roof structures, the big four, right? And everybody automatically thinks roof, you know, you're talking, and then you get your buddy next door that has a roof company, and they want to put a new roof on it. They want to put 3 shingles and warranty it. Is that factual information?
Oh, yes, welcome to my job now. That's exactly what he said over there. What we do is we investigate it enough to sort of make a determination. So we do a couple things. As you probably see on this little commercial here, my website, we utilize infrared thermal technology, so infrared cameras. So if there is any kind of moisture at that time, it'll pop up and it'll show us. Now, once again, if we haven't had a good heavy rain, it won't. So, and then we moisture meter. So what we're saying is monitor it. Now, if right above that area, and let's say we can't get to that area of the attic, we will look at the roof. So that's why we have 2 guys communicating. So the guy on the roof says, hey, I got some missing shingles right here. When you go in the attic or when you're downstairs, can you double check it? So that's the advantage of a team working for you. So as far as the roofers go, when they were giving away free roofs, you guys remember the commercials, right? Tile roofs are notorious for it, right? So what happened is we would do the inspection, typical regular maintenance, some cracking on the mortar, typical, I've got a tile roof. All tile roofs require just some maintenance on the mortar every now and then, not a big deal, right? But the roofer guy who's canvassing a neighborhood comes on in and says, oh man, your inspector should have come, look, these tiles are lifting. Listen, gals, you can go and lift a tile, right? Anyone can lift a tile on a roof. So unfortunately, it's a catch-22. So we always have those conversations with our agents who say, you've got some maintenance, definitely for sure. But if it's a little beyond that, maybe they are entitled to a new roof. So you have to be aware of that. Now that they're not doing the new roofs anymore, it's a different conversation for us. Because we don't have the roofers canvassing the neighborhoods like they were before. Because all those calls came back to me, well, now we got to get a new roof. You should have told me about this. It's like, no, you got sold a new roof. that's what happened, so. Yep.
We had that happen in our house. We had the inspection done, had the door knockers come through our neighborhood, and told us we needed a new roof, and we called the inspection company, and they came back out. Same company that we paid, and they came back out and looked at it again for us, and they said, absolutely not, you're getting scammed.
Yep.
There is one tile that's loose, we'll fix that for you, but it was like, you definitely can't. I would not put a new roof on, and when you have 3 people tell you have to put a new roof on right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was notorious for the tile roasts, what that was all about. Roasts we get about 15 to 20 years on average, and then any tile roasts, the insurance companies start looking at them a little further, just so you're aware of it and what you're doing. Real quick, the wind mitigation, just so you know, is typically required on homes that were built from 2003 or older. So we automatically, some companies, they don't suggest or say anything. They're the low bidder, and what they'll do is they'll say, yeah, our home inspection is $350, knowing doggone well that they're gonna have to add on the wind mitigation and 4-point inspection. Our office looks up the address. We know what inspections that you're gonna need as far as insurance goes. So on 4-point inspections, they're typically required on homes that are 25 years or older. It's just, once again, it's welcome to Florida, and those are the 2 additional insurance inspections that you may or may not need. Now with veteran loans, you would need a termite inspection as well as a well water inspection on any home that has a well, just to give you a heads up. So that way you're not, what happens is people who don't know any better, or even the lenders who don't know any better, we end up, it's time to close, and they're like, well, VA wants the well water test. It takes us a week to get them, so just keep that in mind. So, anyways, I guess we're all out of time. It was great hanging out with you guys. Jenna's going to hopefully get in touch with you. We'd love to come into your broker's offices and sort of share some of this information with your office. So keep that in mind. It'd be really nice if Jenna gives you a call and says, hey, we'd love to come by and visit with your broker. Hopefully you like what you heard today. Okay, guys? Thank you.
Thank you.